So you're heading out to your first post-apocalyptic festival or event. Maybe it's Wasteland Weekend, maybe it's Dream Springs, doesn't matter. The point is, you need a outfit. And you're thinking to yourself, this is like a week away, there's no way in hell I have time, I've never made a costume before, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna look the fool, everybody's gonna laugh at me. Well, don't fret, because I'm gonna show you a super friggin' easy way to build a Wasteland Basic or post-apocalyptic basic outfit that'll make you blend into the crowd and not look like a sore thumb wearing Abercrombie and Fitch. That was a timely reference. It's gonna be fine. You're gonna like the way you look, you're gonna blend in, you're gonna look like a post-apocalyptic Mad Max extra. It's gonna be good. And guess what? It doesn't matter if you're using a light colored shirt, a dark colored shirt, or a mid-tone shirt, because I'm gonna show you how to handle all three and get it done within a day. So strap in, kiddo, we're gonna build ourselves a basic post-apocalyptic outfit right now. Part 1, tops. Alright, so I already showed you how to stain a light colored or white article of clothing using tea staining, but I'm gonna show you a different way right now for stuff that you're gonna have to probably go out and hunt for, but is super easy to use. So you can see this shirt is already kind of lightly stained. I washed it after tea staining. It's getting pretty faded, so I want to redo the effect, but with something else. It's a little bit stronger, longer lasting, but like I said, it's going to require you to go out and look for this. I know this is super worn, so it's hard to read the label, but this is a fabric ink paint by Fabric Creations. You can find this at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. I think they're around $5. A little bit of this goes a long way, so I've had this one for a while. And they have a variety of colors. For this I'm going to use the brown, but I'm not going to use just the straight up fabric ink because it'll go on extremely dark. So what you're going to do, my fancy cup here, is you're going to water this ink down. And you can do this with a sponge or a brush. In this case, I'm going to use a brush. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of ink to the water, but start out real light because you always want room to darken. We're going to start out with a super light base, so just use a little bit of the ink. We're not going to go too heavy because we want to build. On light colored garments like this, I highly recommend using browns instead of blacks and grays. You can see I used a gray tone here and I really don't like the way it looks. It does not look natural. Not a fan. So just use a little bit. And I like to drip it first to see how dark we're gonna go. This is pretty light. Let's get a little dusting on the collar here. So I might have to go darker to get the desired effect that I want. But this is why we start off light, because if I went too dark, I would be stuck with it. This is a much more permanent effect than tea staining, I've found. But that tutorial was more about using things you might already have in your home. You can also use leather paint for this. The only reason I would advise against it is that leather paint can be a little pricey and it feels sort of wasted if you're using it on cotton. I think I would just stick with this fabric paint, or fabric ink, sorry. So we're gonna build out here. This was one of the early shirts that I weathered, and I used a gray, like I said, and I really don't like the way it looks, so I'm hoping that this redeems it a little bit, because light colors being stained gray as opposed to browns and yellows and warm tones is really unnatural, and when you look at it, it looks extremely costumey to me. And you don't want your stuff to look too costumey in its base form. Or maybe you do. That's really not up to me, but I personally don't like it. You can see I have some really minor tears I've added to this. It makes a world of difference to have little pieces of weathering like that. I think it adds to the look. So I'm gonna go ahead and stain this up with the light stain there. Like I always say, try not to make it too patterned. Being erratic is gonna be your friend. So you can see already, it's already way more brown toned than tea staining is. The color starts to show a little bit less subtle. So even with this light version of this fabric ink that's really watered down, it's still very brown. And when it dries, it's already kind of drying down here and you can see it. So be very sparing. And then I'm going to build up in color. It's also important to note inconsistency is key. You'll see that the middle right here, which I guess will fit more on my stomach, is less dirty. Some people, when they dye their shirts or they tea stain their shirts or do stuff like I'm doing right now, they just kind of submerge the whole shirt into the liquid. I've done that before and it was way too uniform for my liking. So you can do that if you want to make, you know, your base completely tan and then go dark from there. But I prefer to leave these lighter spots present just because I like the look better, the inconsistency. It turns into like a brown tie-dye the way I'm doing it now, as opposed to being a solid color. Because I don't know, I don't really see the point in that if you're starting with a white shirt, because you might as well start with a tan shirt. But that is a method you could use and experiment with. So let's go ahead and do a heavier wash. This time I'm going to pour more paint in here. So you can see, I don't have exact measurements for you guys, I'm sorry. This is about 3 squirts as opposed to 1, is all I can really tell you. But your first wash through with this, your water should be pretty transparent, kind of look like iced tea color, even lighter. You should be able to see through it. This looks like thick chocolate milk, and you should not be able to see through it. So I'll just show you versus you'll be able to instantly see how much darker that is. And this is about as dark as I would go. I wouldn't go any darker than this. It starts to look less natural, I guess. You can try different tones and different colors of brown. You don't have to use the straight up brown like I'm showing you here. If you want to mix it, I've seen some people do this with more Arizona-like colors, where it's more of red earth, and it looks really cool. But for this, I'm just going to show you the most basic way, and you can go ahead and explore that other stuff on your own. But you can see how much darker this is. I'm going a little heavy just to show you. Again, I would really use this sparingly. If you're using a brush, definitely mix up your methods with blots versus strokes as well. But when it comes to light stuff like this, you do, as opposed to a mid-tone or like a dark, you do kind of want to go a little heavier than you think is right. I know I keep telling you to be subtle, but you'll notice that in photos and stuff at the event, if people are taking photos of you, your effects get very washed out in photographs. So you do want to go a little bit with light colored stuff like you're seeing here. A little bit heavier, I found, just because it doesn't show up. So if it looks a little too dark, don't freak out too much. You might even want to do, if you're really into, if you want to be really overcautious about it, you can always take a photo in the sunlight to test it and see how it looks there. Because yeah, you'll notice erring on the side of caution that you'll think your stuff is like perfect, and it might even look perfect in person. But in film and in photos and stuff, if you want your stuff to get that kind of recognition, it will look pretty washed out. So you might want to overdo it a little bit on this stuff, even more than I'm showing you right now. That's up to you. Like I said, it probably sounds counterintuitive to everything I'm saying about building the tones and stuff, but just keep that in mind, that you might want to, if you value yourself being photographed and stuff in these costumes or outfits, you might want to do a photo test to be sure that you have achieved the level of weathering and look that you want. Okay, I'm getting a little bit patterned here. I always try not to forget the back of the garment, because I noticed out of habit I often neglect the back. Most of the work is done on the front. Okay, so I'll take another look at this once it's dry and we'll see how it looks. So this is the shirt now that it's dry. It looks pretty much the same as it did wet, but this is the final effect I achieved here. And this is a lot darker, a lot less subtle than, you can see my messy desk, a lot less subtle than the tea staining. It's definitely more permanent. I highly recommend using the fabric ink. Don't just use acrylic paint. Only because I have used acrylic paint in the past and it's made the fabric stick together. So definitely use something that is meant for fabric would be my advice if you want to achieve this look with your light colored shirt. Alright, so a good friend of mine and a tribe mate Fluffle lent me a shirt of hers she's going to be wearing this year. You can see she already did a little bit of work to it. There's some tears, I think there's some bleach staining, but she graciously lent me to use in this video as an example of weathering. So just like I showed you in the pants video, when you're working with mid-tones, I usually start with the dark versus the light. And just like in the pants video, I'm going to start with this Color Shot Instant Fabric paint for outdoors. This is from Tulip. This is a really good fabric paint that's specifically made for patio furniture and stuff that is supposed to be weather resistant outside. This will not wash out of your clothing. It's soft and flexible, so as opposed to using normal spray paint that kind of cracks and is a little uncomfortable, I prefer to use this on clothing. You can get this at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. So if you're working with a mid-tone, I usually start with this. If you choose black, they have a variety of colors. I highly recommend using brown and tan as well. But for this, I only have the black, so I'm going to use that. Be very sparing with it when you're first starting out, because it goes on extremely heavy. So just sort of dust it. Don't get too close to the garment, because it'll very quickly turn your outfit completely black if you're using black. So be very sparing with it when you're first using it. Try to err on the side of being conservative when you start out. And when it comes to building your outfit, I usually like to have a mid-tone colored pants. I usually like to have a mid-tone colored bottom, so like your pants, your skirt, whatever. And I usually like to have a light colored top for color breakup, and then dark boots. You don't have to do that. I just really recommend that. You can see the pants here we use in the tutorial. You don't wear all one color. So like, I wouldn't wear a shirt like this with pants like this. I realize that these are the same color, so it'd be really weird. But even tonally, I think using all mid-tones just isn't visually all that interesting. So, hey, a beetle. Sorry, anyway, I get distracted very easily. So try to mix it up. And like I said in the pants video, I don't want to repeat myself too much, but if you're working with something like this, try to build some visual interest with accessories and stuff that are maybe brighter colors, so that you don't have an all completely drab outfit, because you will start to blend into the background in photos and stuff. So yeah, just continue with the spray. And if you're working with it like I am right now, where the shirt's kind of bunched up, make sure that when you turn the shirt over, you also don't miss. You don't want to create a seam, and you don't want to create a pattern. So make sure you don't leave any blank spots like that. Before we move on, I just want to mention that the spray will work on both synthetic and organic materials. There's a couple steps in this tutorial that will only work on things like cotton and not acrylic. So this is something that you can use if you have garments that are made of synthetic materials. Alright, so we're done adding the dark to our mid-tone shirt. I'm going to show you now how to do some light tones using bleach. So just like with the dark shirt, we're going to use a bleach spray that is about this much bleach and the rest water. Favoring the water because bleach is very harsh, and we're just going to do a light spray on this. And the darker the garment, the more extreme the effect usually is. You can also lighten this by having more water to bleach ratio. And it'll affect different colors different ways, which is important to note. So you might want to be careful. Kind of neutral stuff like olive and gray and charcoal and stuff has a nice kind of red to orange effect. On black, it's extremely orange if you're using a dark colored shirt. But if you're using like a violet or a blue, I've had it turn out not so favorable. Where it kind of turns like a pink, and I wasn't a big fan of it, but maybe you will be, so experiment as you will. Alright, so this is an age-old method. Please use a spray bottle that has the ability to mist as opposed to just straight up spray. You can get at the 99-cent store. And this can be a little bit unpredictable, so I use a light misting to test out. But you can see it's already kind of taking shape here. A little bit goes a long way. See how it's turning this sort of rust color? This is an age-old method that even people not in the PA community use. I've seen people do this to band shirts and stuff. It's kind of a fashion thing, I guess. And I am destroying my desk right now. So doing this will let your shirt have that little extra oomph. We're gonna go a little high up here. I think she did a little bit of bleaching herself before she gave me the shirt to work on. I can see some minor bleach effects on here. And I think I'm going to dunk this in some water to stop the bleach process because it looks pretty good in my opinion. I like the tone that it has right now. So I gotta act fast if I want to keep this color in effect or it will keep going. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright, so now I'm going to move on to how to work with dark shirts. This is kind of an age-old standby. A lot of people do this, and it'll work on this, which is a charcoal colored shirt, or a black shirt. It'll work on darker colored shirts in general. I'm gonna put my gloves on. But be very sparing with it because this effect can look really kind of tacky if it's overdone, I think. So we're gonna do bleaching. So this right here is about this much bleach and the rest is all water. I do not recommend using straight up bleach because the effect will be very strong, and in some instances it'll turn your outfit orange. This will probably have an orangey tone to it as opposed to like a white or something. But on black, it'll look like a flame orange. That could look really cool if you're really into it. I would still recommend watering it down because it can eat through the fabric depending on what you're using. This is also a surefire way to find out what your fabric is made of. So if you're not sure if it's cotton, you're gonna find out. I've done this on stuff before that are synthetics and that are stain resistant, and it's had absolutely no effect at all. So we're gonna find out what this holy smoke shirt is made of because I'm not completely sure it's cotton. It's a knockoff Wicked Tees shirt. I'm sorry, Wicked Tees. I should have just bought the original. But it was cheaply made and I got it specifically for this purpose. So I usually put this on. Most standard spray bottles are going to have like a mist effect as opposed to a straight up squirt effect like this. So that's like the mist effect, and that's usually what I use. So we'll see if this works on here. And if it doesn't work right away, be very patient because I have over bleached shirts so many times attempting to do this, you would not believe it. Although this might be a synthetic shirt because I'm seeing no effect whatsoever right now. Believe it or not, there are synthetic shirts that are pretty bleach resistant. This should also go without saying, but please wear gloves when you're working with bleach. Sometimes it takes a few minutes for the effects to completely show on these, so I'm actually going to work up this shirt and I'm going to let it sit for a while and see if it works, which it looks like it is. I'm seeing, you can see the edges. Well, I don't know if you can see it. The edges are turning kind of a red where the bleach is hitting, and that'll continue to intensify. Ooh, yeah, can you see it right here on the side? Working with bleach is a little unpredictable, I'm not gonna lie. There are some people who are really good at this. I'm not super well versed in it, so we're gonna see if this turns out looking great or if it looks like a hot mess. Ooh, look, it's turning, see what I mean about orange tones? Even this is turning like a red. If I was working on a black shirt, it would probably be a little bit more orange on this. And depending on how intense you want it, maybe you do want it orange. But see that? Like, it's really coming out now. Pretty cool, huh? You can play with the effects that you want. I also recommend, once the shirt has faded in a way that you like, you dunk this in water to sort of diffuse the bleach and keep it from doing any further damage. There we go. Yeah, I'm actually digging the way this looks. I don't use bleach like this a lot because I mostly use lighter colored tops and not dark. Let's see. But you can see this, using the spray bottle gives it an uneven kind of appearance. Make sure to do the bottom. But this is a very, very common effect you'll see in post-apocalyptic costuming. It looks good. It definitely, I don't want this to sound like a bad thing, but you will blend in with the crowd pretty well. It's pretty cool. I like it personally. And it's super easy to do. You might have to adjust your bleach mixture accordingly, depending on how stuff starts to turn out. Like this is pretty heavy. Turning very, very red, like a russet red. Which I like, but if I wasn't happy with this, you could see how it might be a pain. So let's turn it over. Unlike staining, you do have a little bit less control, obviously, with this method that I'm showing you. You could, instead of using the spray bottle, use a sponge. Again, please wear gloves. But it'll be a little bit more time consuming. There'll be a little more trial and error. I actually haven't done that, so I can't advise you on it as well as I can with this stuff. But I always encourage you guys to take these methods and experiment with them. Don't do exactly what I do. And do this in a better ventilated area than I'm showing you, please. If you can do this outside, that would be ideal. But you can see right away, it took it a minute with that first squirt. Now it's getting up there. See, if I dunk this in water right now, I might be able to preserve this lighter shade. Okay, I think I'm gonna call it a day on this one. So that is how you bleach stain a darker toned shirt. And that's it. You now have yourself a Wasteland Basic, basic post-apocalyptic t-shirt there to add to your outfit. Remember to add a few scuffs and scratches here and there. Get yourself a serrated knife and safely add some little holes to add some visual interest, and you're good to go. I hope this tutorial was some help to you, and I look forward to seeing your work that you've done at Wasteland Weekend 2019, which is coming up next week. Keep building, keep exploring, and next up will be the pants portion of the Wasteland Basic tutorial. See you soon.